With 41 episodes to rank in this season, I have watched all in a row, deciding what to rank between S and F tier, and I'm more than proud to say that Season 1 of SpongeBob does not have any F tiers or D tiers. So round of applause for that. However, we do have a few C tiers, and C tiers aren't bad by any means. It just means they're alright episodes if they come on TV, but it's not like you'll go search for them. So, coming in at number 41, and I don't like to use the word worst because none of these episodes are bad. This one right here is not bad. However, something has to be last place, and it is I Was a Teenage Gary. And this episode does actually have a lot of funny bits. I do like episodes with Squidward and Gary present, and this has both of them. But it kind of becomes weird, and this is like the first time with transforming the characters into like weird specimens, thinking that they like contracted snail pox or something. But quickly the humor starts to wear off, and it becomes this weird like fest of everyone becoming this Gary. And compared to the other episodes and watching this compared to the literal masterpieces of the season, this has to be one of the weaker, which is why it's at 41. Alright, coming in at number 40 is The Paper, which also in C tier mainly because of the reasoning. It's kinda forgettable, it has really funny moments, and I do like the Squidward like roast game they have with the puppet. However, this episode is shared with Valentine's Day, which as you know only airs one time a year. So it's automatically masked by that in terms of nostalgia. It of course has this great meme right here where SpongeBob schools Squidward, which is obviously hilarious, but at the same time I'm not sure if that saves it from C tier, but it is a great reference point. All that occurs is Squidward gets gaslit by SpongeBob that this paper is almost like priceless just because Squidward made some BS promise. So Squidward gives him everything he's ever earned in order to have this piece of paper. And at the end he gets a citation. It all ends kind of badly for my man Squidward. Moving on to number 39. Alright, so the main reason this episode is lower on the list is because it shows like a darker side of Squidward, and though he does get redemption, the episode ends up, you know, nicely wrapped in a bow. It's one of the ones where like you feel a little bit of sympathy and you're not too sure whether or not to laugh. Just like every other episode in this season, everything is incredibly meme-worthy, but something has to take 39th place. Squidward's cruel joke in light of the other episodes kind of set it as a mid-tone. I mean, I'm kind of on Squidward's side because SpongeBob does the utmost to be a menace to Squidward. And then suddenly when Squidward does something about it, he's the bad guy. Everyone gets what they deserve, I suppose, in the end. This is the last C tier episode. Everything else is B or above. Now, this kind of sucks to say because this also is shared by the other C tier episode, I Was a Teenage Gary, meaning when this episode comes on, you're kind of in for a mid-time, when you could be watching something like Pretty Patties or Krusty Krab Pizza. SpongeBob and Patrick do their thing, where they dress up for Halloween and they have to go out trying to scare people. SpongeBob wishes to be a ghost, but he's like too square, and so everyone calls him a mattress and laughs at him, which I guess is quirky and a little bit funny, but it's not like they're scared of him even as a ghost. They do get like 4 minutes of fame, if that's what you can even call it, while everyone's at the Krusty Krab attending a party, Stardew Valley style. It is then revealed that SpongeBob is actually not in like a costume or a round sponge. It's just he's completely shaved off, which is a little bit weird, especially when you get hit back to back with the weird Gary episode. So overall, both of these end up in C tier. Now it is time for B. At 37 is Mermaid and Barnacle Boy 1. Barely squeaking it into B tier, however, I feel like it deserves it. There are just way too many funny references, And I think this is a great way to actually introduce the characters, especially if you consider it from SpongeBob and Patrick's standpoint, where they are fans of it. It could have been presented like an opening with a huge fight scene with them, and then they would get introduced later, but it is explained perfectly by SpongeBob and Patrick's shenanigans. I really enjoy the POV from Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy as they're in the retirement home. I think it's a hilarious segment throughout the entire episode. Barnacle Boy is probably my favorite among the two, as his attitude goes far in terms of humor and complexity. Also, this part where they call the old people because they're just fish and they have this Aquaman power is pretty funny. You always kind of seem to forget that the residents are fish. Number 36 is Nature Pants. I feel like SpongeBob deciding it's his time to take on the wild is a very funny segment. Patrick obviously showing deep remorse and getting very hostile towards the situation to the point where it drives him to basically want to murder SpongeBob. Not to mention this meme here, it's classic, it's great. You are not unhappy when this episode pulls up on your TV. SpongeBob does eventually learn his lesson. He goes back home. Everyone hugs him. Valentine's Day was an episode, like I said previously, that only aired once a year. And I feel like that actually probably helped its ranking, because it's one of those episodes I feel like if it was like daily or maybe even weekly, it could get kind of oversaturated and on your nerves. But the fact it's only played once a year and you recognize it for that day of the year, to go along with the fact it's funny and a good episode, it shows Patrick's misunderstanding of his surroundings. And the idea of Patrick going around thinking everything is for him just because it's Valentine's Day is pretty funny, just to get mad when SpongeBob presents him a handshake and makes it as if that's his present. Patrick is okay with a quarter, but a handshake is way too little. Patrick is clearly not having it, but he does get a very nice chocolate balloon at the end that splatters everywhere. He laughs, he loves it, he has a great time. 35th place is actually a pretty good hold for this episode, and I feel like everyone should watch it at least once a year. At 34th place is Home Sweet Pineapple. SpongeBob house gets eaten by nematodes, or should I say drank, where he is forced to live with Patrick for a time being. It's a huge, hilarious part. He wants to do any and everything he can to prevent him having to go back to his parents, where he would have to live away from his friends. Patrick clearly wants him there as well. I like the focus between the best friends on this episode, and it's a hilarious segment. Patrick does try his best to help. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this might be the first time we see SpongeBob's parents as well. And it's in a loving, introductive manner, so that's a bonus. And Squidward even gives SpongeBob a glass of water, showing very much sympathy. And then he definitely lets SpongeBob stay and sleep there for the rest of the episode. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 2 taking the 33rd spot. This focuses on the conch shell, in which they have to complete any task when called upon in case of danger. SpongeBob receives this through the mail for being a very good artist in macaroni sculptures, in which he made life-size replicas of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. This shows a very funny mix and duo between the heroes and SpongeBob, as they actually don't mind at first, since they don't really have much to do nowadays. So I believe if SpongeBob only did this like once a week, maybe like twice a month, he would be fine. But he kept doing this every day, annoying the heroes in a very funny manner. Anytime Barnacle Boy is upset is usually a fun time to be had. We get to see SpongeBob dress up, hang out with the heroes of his dreams, and he gets to save them from the dirty bubble, which that obviously builds a lot of friendships. SpongeBob is thrilled he could help out. He actually feels a part of something. And then they have a good time, making this episode feel wholesome, and I'm very glad to have it in the first season. Alright, now this one may come as a surprise to a lot of you. A lot of you may have been expecting this to be A tier or S tier, but to me, in 32nd place is Squeaky Boots, mainly because I agree with Mr. Krabs. This is annoying. The boots become very, very present, especially if you watch this episode more than twice a year. The squeaks will actually haunt your dreams, because it does have an abundance of funny moments, especially in the retrospect of Mr. Krabs. I'm so happy he did what he did to those boots. The part where he has a mental breakdown is one of my favorites, and the moment he finally decides to cook them up and put them on the menu is the moment I decided this episode was high B tier. Neptune Spatula in 31st place actually makes a lot of sense in my eyes, as it's an episode I watched quite a bit as a child, and I think that the games against SpongeBob and King Neptune are very pleasant to watch. Because King Neptune has an immense ego, but he also knows when he is at defeat. SpongeBob becoming a Neptune god for a moment is hilarious, and I feel like SpongeBob is truly given the respect he deserves, and that is why this episode is in the higher ranking on the B tier. Arg is a classic SpongeBob episode, and it was actually very close into being in the A tier, but I feel like it just doesn't have that oomph like the other A tiers does, but it is a very good classic one. Mr. Krabs harassing SpongeBob to play this goofy game to me is hilarious. The whole pirate adventure is a classic, and the reveal that it's just a board game along with the whole Whist thing this episode deserves the love. R.I.P. Patrick and SpongeBob, all they wanted to do was share, but they got baloney. Muscle Bob is another classic to me, and one that I remember very well. SpongeBob very insecure, as you can see, about his masculinity. He doesn't want to train with Sandy because she has extreme practices, so he feels the need to get fake muscles, and eventually it does end up biting him. Karma is what it is, but before that point, this episode is a great example of what a SpongeBob episode should be. It has a whole bunch of potential. SpongeBob, every corner of this is a meme. The only thing holding this back from being A tier, this is the last one on the B tier. It just has an unpleasant ending where SpongeBob gets completely demolished and humiliated. He gets scolded by Sandy, in which she puts him through a very odd form of workout where he just has to keep pushing a TV remote. Almost there. We are now on the A tier portion of Season 1. These episodes I have deemed Gucci and among the greats. Starting off with Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost. This is the episode where Squidward pretends to be dead and has SpongeBob and Patrick treated as servants for him in the afterlife, where they actually start trying to kill him and bury him. I think the entirety of this episode and the direction it takes, along with the jokes it makes, definitely places itself high in the tier list. Squidward does eventually have to confess that, you know what, I'm not dead. Y'all being stupid. I'm just gonna relax after I scold y'all. It's a pretty good ending for an episode where I think it's perfectly chaotic. SB129. Now, I know this might be a lot higher on more people's list, but to me, it's a very solid episode, obviously in the A tier. But I feel like, to me, there are plenty others that I would rather prefer come on TV or, like watch in general, that are straight bangers. 1,000 memes for this one, and this one is heavily used for YTPs. Everyone, of course, gets to enjoy the anxiety of this entire alone Squidward self-traumatic anxiety attack. He doesn't really learn anything, but this episode is definitely a great watch. Number 26, Opposite Day. The title is pretty self-explanatory. Everything in this episode is perceived as opposite due to SpongeBob and Patrick being menaces. There they are wishing Squidward happy birthday even though it's not his birthday. Now this comes as great inconvenience to Squidward because he is trying to get his home featured and potentially sold, where SpongeBob and Patrick puts that at jeopardy. The entirety of SpongeBob and Patrick pretending to be Squidward where the realtor's there is extremely comedic and half the reason why this episode is so high, because I love this torture for the realtor. The everyone being Squidward meme and the entire running gag is amazing, and Gary being right there at the end is a cherry on top that I love. She is so fed up with it, she's not having it. this is a great episode to watch. At a crisp 25th place is boating school. Extreme points, as I'm almost positive this is the first time we do get to see Mrs. Puff, and I think this is a great way of introducing her. We're obviously almost instantly informed that SpongeBob has done this numerous times and is indeed quite a bad driver in considering all aspects of the boating test. This also introduces the very first ever My Leg. Patrick decides to help SpongeBob cheat, in which actually helps very well, helping SpongeBob exceed in every way, almost getting his license, until he obviously fumbles the bag. I don't know if we'll ever see him officially get his license. 24th, Karate Choppers. This entire episode is goofy fun, comedic action, almost from start to finish, where Sandy and SpongeBob go at it fighting and karate, showing their skills, and demonstrating just how much of a good dynamic that these two friends make. Mr. Krabs gets heavily annoyed that SpongeBob brings this into the workplace and forbids him from doing any more karate, even outside of work, which I believe is a little harsh, until Mr. Krabs realizes that he can profit off of Sandy and SpongeBob for realizing that they can make very quick Krabby Patties doing this skill. So at the end, Mr. Krabs is happy, SpongeBob and Sandy is happy, and what more could you want from a great episode? 23rd is Reef Blower, where almost everyone can admit that this is a classic, the classic, part of the first episode set. This is the episode where they utilize no voice acting and just completely sound and effects. I'm almost 100% positive this is the only episode they did in this style, and it is very creative to do an episode in this fashion because I believe almost no other cartoons have done so, as SpongeBob has, where the rest of the series is usually voice actors. Poor Squidward. The double 22 is Hall Monitor, the last one in A tier before we go to A+. SpongeBob is assigned to be the Hall Monitor for the day in the city that Mrs. Puff allows. She automatically knows that this is a bad idea. What SpongeBob doesn't know is he's actually the bad guy that everyone is warning each other about while he's trying to catch himself. Patrick, of course, is ignorant and oblivious to the situation, providing many memes and many hilarious jokes out of this episode, definitely placing this in A tier and in its very deserving spot. I just felt like these episodes deserve their own tier away from A because they have extra credit. They went the extra mile, so they deserve A+. We are obviously starting off with Suds, where SpongeBob leaves the fridge open, making everything cold and giving him the sickness known as Suds. There's a lot of character interaction in this episode revolving around SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, Gary, even Mr. Krabs. This is the first time we get to see what SpongeBob is into. Patrick tries to gaslight Sandy that he's a doctor and that SpongeBob is okay even though he's clearly not. He ends up destroying the Krusty Krab, going to the hospital anyway, even though all of that funny stuff that happened. SpongeBob was gaslighted to think the doctor was scary, which is obviously not the case. We get this amazingly goofy IRL scene where SpongeBob is healed, being used to scrub this very hairy man's back and foot. Definitely Dan Schneider episode right here. A for SpongeBob episode and A+ since Patrick gets his karma, where he pretends to be sick, wanting to have the very special treatment SpongeBob did, but gets the exact opposite. Rock Bottom with 20th place, the last installment before the teens. We get to see Glove World, which is amazing to see. As long as Glove World is in an episode, you know it's going to be fire. SpongeBob and Patrick travel down to Rock Bottom City. SpongeBob is then accidentally left behind by Patrick. We get this amazing scene where SpongeBob keeps getting duped by the bus because the poor guy is hungry and he wants something from the vending machine, but every time he tries, a new bus appears. Even when he tries to flag them down, they still run away, and some bozo steals his candy bar. For some reason, seeing SpongeBob in this aggravated state is hilarious. I'm assuming one of the animators or storytellers or directors working on this SpongeBob episode must have had a very bad experience with a bus recently, and I'm kinda glad because we get to see this masterpiece A+ of an episode. This episode holds a special place because this is one of the episodes that was on an orange VHS tape when I was a child. So I got to watch this one a lot, and this is why this one is 19th place. Pearl cannot find a date, so Mr. Krabs offers the homie SpongeBob because he has mega riz. He shows up ready to show Pearl a good time. I would highly recommend watching this episode as there's a lot of funny stuff that goes on. He does the sponge dance. He impresses Pearl's friends. He even gets the sympathy points. Most importantly, he rizzed up Pearl, who ends up liking him a lot at the end of the episode. And he impresses Mr. Krabs, his boss, and Pearl's father. And it wasn't even him, he didn't even have to try, that's how much riz SpongeBob has. 19th place, childhood episode. SpongeBob's first time jellyfishing, 18th place. I think this showed a very nice standpoint of the animation team and the quality that SpongeBob was going to be directed at in its early years. Squidward's karma decides to come around and bite him, where he gets hospitalized and Patrick and SpongeBob have to spend the episode taking care of him, which, as you can already imagine, is hilarious. And of course, who could forget firmly grasp it? Very nice, Patrick. Squidward gets to go jellyfishing, in which he actually catches a jellyfish, but then he finds the king of all jellyfishes. He finds the big one. Even more karma for Squidward. But the part I love the most at the end is when Squidward gets to release a jellyfish onto SpongeBob and Patrick, and it chases and stings them while they run away. I think that is great karma on their part, and I love it. Now, 17th place, which is the next one right after this, is Plankton, which shares the same episode. So this entire episode, when it comes on TV, you know you're about to have a fire time. Both A+ tiers. We get to see Plankton. In the first seasons, he was actually incredibly small, in which in the newer seasons, he actually kind of grown a bit. So good job, Plankton. You did it. He tries to bribe SpongeBob in order to get a Krabby Patty, and we immediately know as an audience, as children, Plankton's a bad guy and he wants to make bread off of Mr. Krabs' success. He takes control of SpongeBob's mind just so he can control him and get a Krabby Patty where he can find out what the secret formula is. Squidward gets roasted crisply, which I love about this episode, and I think it's a great aspect of it. Just like almost everything else in Season 1, there are a lot of memeable and worthy mentions just in this episode alone. Plankton's kryptonite and weakness is obviously Krabby Patties, where he sacrifices his own mission just to taste one. Hilarious moment right here, 1% evil, 99% hot gas. Plankton didn't even get fries. 16th place, tea at the Tree Dome. This is the first time we get to see Sandy. She's immediately one of the first characters introduced into the SpongeBob universe. She is a tough, feisty, durable squirrel. The first one I'm pretty sure seen in Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob immediately befriends her, and I'm glad she is one of the main characters of the SpongeBob universe. We have hilarious moments of SpongeBob figuring out he needs water. He finds out he needs the water and able to even breathe. Hilarious meme right here. He survives in a fancy-like state. We have a fire beat on the internet made from Patrick's coughing on this episode alone. And I always thought the way they drank tea here is very quirky-like. Walking Small taking 15th place. This episode is revolved around Plankton trying to teach SpongeBob how to be more assertive and just overall mean. Now, I love this version of SpongeBob, and I think it is a rare moment that should be not taken for granted, and this episode is an amazing watch. SpongeBob, in a very comedic way, becomes a big jerk. And I think Plankton tagging along and help instigating the situation is hilarious. But of course, SpongeBob undoes all the damage he did, making everyone happy and foiling Plankton's plan. It is a very unique, one-of-a-kind episode that I would definitely recommend as a watch. 14th place is Naughty Nautical Neighbors. Maybe I just like the mean episodes. Basically, Squidward makes Patrick and SpongeBob hate each other with false goofy messages, and it actually ends up working, and it makes the both of them betray each other. But in very meme-worthy fashions, SpongeBob and Patrick slowly fight for the affection over Squidward in order to be their new best friend since they no longer like each other. Patrick tries to grab a double, everyone loves it. At the expense of Squidward's house, SpongeBob and Patrick are both friends again. This is the karma you receive for trying to split up the pair of SpongeBob and Patrick. 13th place, last of A+, right before we get to S, is Culture Shock. Squidward is hosting a talent show where everyone from the entire Bikini Bottom is showing up to celebrate and judge everyone, critique them for what they're worth. Mr. Krabs getting a lot of business. Look at the amazing acts we have. We have Gary. We have Pearl getting clout just cause her dad owns the place. Gary on the mic. Sandy has a way with words. She says, quoting about Gary, "Ever since this dropped, Eminem's been real quiet." Though Bikini Bottom didn't like it, I loved Squidward's act and his amazing dance. If we didn't have it, we would be missing a meme in history. SpongeBob steals the spotlight by just being the janitor. Mr. Krabs get paid, look at him over there. SpongeBob, everyone loves him, amazing episode. The top 12 is Texas entering the S tier, and I think it rightfully deserves this spot. We get Sandy's beautiful song about her home and how she misses it. Cartoons don't usually put soul or goofiness or lore like this just in general anymore, and it's very happy to see, even though it is kind of goofy at some parts. It builds up Sandy as a character, and it even makes a grown man like Mr. Krabs cry. After all the endless jokes and hilarious memes from this episode, they all come together, and that it's okay to be away from Texas as long as she is where her friends are and where her heart is. The double one is Sandy's rocket at 11th place. SpongeBob and Patrick decides that it's a good idea to steal Sandy's rocket that's meant to go to the moon, in which they aim for the moon but they miss instead and goes right back down to Bikini Bottom. But they don't know that they're in Bikini Bottom. What they think happened is that they landed on the moon and it looks exactly like Bikini Bottom, and they think everyone here is aliens. So they go around snatching and blasting everyone in a way that I find so enjoyable to watch. And as a child, for some reason, when this episode came on, I was like super happy. It was up there with my favorites. Obviously, Sandy comes down, and after a mass confusion, I'm assuming she actually can't explain what happened, and it is all settled. We are entering the top 10, and 10th place is Employee of the Month. An amazing episode that everyone should definitely watch. Squidward doesn't care about work. Obviously, that's typical of Squidward. However, when SpongeBob starts to glow about how easy it is to get Employee of the Month because he's gotten it so many times, and for some reason, SpongeBob is afraid that Squidward is about to take his reputation and his place. So after a failed sabotage from SpongeBob's end, Squidward has decided that it is war against SpongeBob for the Employee of the Month title, but SpongeBob is not going down easily. He's going in slices. At the end of the day, their end goal is to get to the Krusty Krab and immediately try pleasing Mr. Krabs so that perhaps he will give them the Employee of the Month. But they become workaholics and overwhelm Mr. Krabs, destroying the Krusty Krab for like the 30th time, which the residents of Bikini Bottom get free Krabby Patties, which is amazing because, you know, they cost a lot of money. Mr. Krabs isn't cheap with that, and it ends up being Mr. Krabs is Employee of the Month because the other two fumbled and dropped the bag. We are now at the single digits. At number 9 is Bubble Stand. Now, I'm sure many can agree with me here that this is definitely an S tier episode. SpongeBob sells bubbles and how to blow bubbles, all for a quarter. SpongeBob is the ultimate bubble artist. If he was in Danganronpa, that would be his shtick. Squidward, as you know, gets hating, throwing shade at SpongeBob's business being a loyal op. Squidward, after multiple attempts of failing to blow a simple bubble, finally decides to bust a move and do the technique that SpongeBob has taught him, in which afterwards, Squidward is then finally able to blow a perfect-ish bubble, a little bit ovally, but it is a bubble that works and is large. You already know what happens to Squidward and his house. Poor Squidward with all the bad karma. Some of it I'm not even sure he deserves. Squidward's house thankfully does come back into place, but I'm almost guaranteeing that everything expensive got knocked off a shelf and destroyed. This had to be in the top 8. This is the very first episode of SpongeBob ever, and I think this is what helped blast its performance, because this is pure gold, an S tier and a banger. The realistic coral they decide to use for the opening cut, beautiful glance at Bikini Bottom, and a very eye-catching scenery of the houses of the main characters. We are immediately establishing that the pink chubby starfish is SpongeBob's best friend that is hilarious and that we're already connecting to. He is instantly interested at becoming an intern and potential worker at the Krusty Krab, but he has to prove himself. Squidward, big nose, hating from the start, but SpongeBob will prove himself, as the Krusty Krab is immediately overwhelmed by anchovies. They are prepared for this to be the end, but SpongeBob has other plans and ideas, saving them from almost guaranteed destruction, having an amazing music scene where he is able to prove he is the best fry cook out there, and can quickly feed the anchovies in a timely manner. Mr. Krabs, seeing this, is obviously impressed at the rate in which SpongeBob can do this, and you know for a fact SpongeBob is cooking way better burgers than Squidward ever could working there. He feeds the last anchovy, they head on their way, and obviously you see that cash back there. Mr. Krabs is not going to let SpongeBob go, and he is an official employee, and this proves SpongeBob is a legendary cartoon, giving it a great start ahead. We are now getting down to the creme de la creme. We are here at 7th place, the amazing and classic fun episode where SpongeBob tries to teach Plankton how charming life could be if he was good or having fun. Plankton's variation of the fun song is amazing. SpongeBob's variation of the fun song is amazing, especially as a child. It'll go down in history. So how can I not add this to S tier, and how can I not have this in the top 10? It is revealed through hilarious fashion that Plankton is still evil and that Mr. Krabs was right all along, proving to the audience that Mr. Krabs should most likely be trusted, especially when it comes to the secret formula. Plankton is mistaken for a jelly bean by Bubble Bass, which is hilarious. The top 6, only saved for the best, is Pickles. Squidward denying food service and being a jerk to the rest of the customers is amazing content. Let me guess, Tiny, a small salad, banger line that I use to this day. Introduction to Bubble Bass, where he decides that's best to hide the pickles under his tongue. Shout out Mama Pratt. This obviously makes SpongeBob very upset, as he believes his fry cook skills are growing weak, to the point where he has to go into retraining with Mr. Krabs, in which through the Krabs method it actually works and SpongeBob knows how to do it perfectly. Bubble Bass gloats as he feels like he can trick SpongeBob for the second time, but SpongeBob said, "No sir, let me see under that tongue." Bam, nut. There's also someone car keys under there, which means Bubble Bass has no ride. SpongeBob is deemed as the formidable fry cook he always was, and he no longer lost his confidence. Taking 5th place in the top 5 is Jellyfish Jam. SpongeBob has taken a real liking to one of the jellyfish he has caught and found, keeping it as a pet. This episode introduces us to one of the most fire songs in history in humankind in the making. Through seizures and parties, we can all love this episode for what it's worth. The jellyfish decide to betray SpongeBob, outnumbering him and hurting him, just so they can party. I mean, they bump and look at that. There's so much amazing content that happens in this episode alone that I feel like it could be an entire video by itself. In 4th place, a formidable foe is ripped pants. I mean, who doesn't love this meme right here? SpongeBob decides to prove that he can gain muscle, lift them weights, but after ripping his pants, he finds out that everyone loves the act and laughs every time in hysteria when he does so he believes it is his calling. But he eventually ends up overplaying the joke and making everyone annoyed because he keeps ripping his pants, until he eventually takes the joke way too far and pretends to die, in which obviously a lot of people decided that it wasn't funny anymore, and they were like, you know what, this is the last straw, we angry with you now. Even Sandy decided to scold him. But after assembling an amazing team and choir, he produces one of the most banger songs in the SpongeBob lore and universe. This episode brings everything you want to see in SpongeBob. Redemption arc, an amazing song, fun times, hilarious jokes, where at the end, even though he embarrasses himself, he knows that's all good. We are about to get to the top 3, which are the most amazing selective episodes in the SpongeBob series alone. They go way past season 1, and they are probably some of the best overall in general. These 3 hold a lot of meaning, so congratulations to them. 3rd place might as well be taking the diamond standard is Hooky, where the hooks come to town. It is basically about fishermen that try and fish out the residents of Bikini Bottom. Mr. Krabs tried to explain the danger to SpongeBob, and it gives us an inside look and a reminder that these are fish. But against Mr. Krabs' warning, they decide to go because Patrick sees cheese. And I won't even lie, Patrick sees no danger here. And I bet human cheese has to be a lot better than the Krusty Krab cheese. I mean, look at that gawk gawk, he just left the hook. Patrick shows SpongeBob how to tease the fishermen, where they can actually use these things as rides. Because when the fishermen start to pull up, and it just goes too high, they can simply just skydive and float down. Which honestly, if it's always a guaranteed safety float because they're fish, I think would be hilarious. And teasing the fishermen, I can imagine how annoyed my dad would be if every time he got a fish, that thing was always off the hook. Mr. Krabs has never heard of a break before, Common Manager L, and so he finds out that they're playing hooky at the hooks that he told SpongeBob not to go to, and so he can sense them out with his crab smell, trying to save them. Leaving Squidward to deal with an angry mob is hilarious. And even after giving a stern final warning to SpongeBob, SpongeBob becomes hooked and tuna'd. But what SpongeBob actually doesn't know is it's just a prank from Squidward and Mr. Krabs. Mr. Krabs knew that SpongeBob wouldn't learn if it was just words, so he needed action. So after threatening his employment and humility, SpongeBob fights to stay on, in which it actually works, but gives him lifetime embarrassment and a little bit of payback for not listening to Mr. Krabs 3 times. An amazing classic episode that you're never gonna stop watching. I think Squidward actually being able to do deviousness to SpongeBob is pretty good. SpongeBob has definitely learned his lesson, and Patrick himself became a can of tuna. A lot of people probably expect this to be number 1, but in a very close race, number 2 is pizza delivery. The entire episode is perfect, almost flawless, if not flawless. I'm even gonna make it official. It's a flawless episode. We get a couple songs out of it, an amazing character arc for Squidward and SpongeBob. The jokes are always on point and everything lands. You know this episode made you want to try Krusty Krab pizza. There SpongeBob is gliding in where we landed. I mean, just look at that. Even Squidward knows what's going on. And he's a critic. SpongeBob does the amazing boulder scene. He drives the rock, proving Squidward wrong. And this way, they're actually able to deliver the food to the customer, where after being treated extremely rude by a male Karen, yeah you, Squidward decides to get character arc and take it on himself to defend his buddy SpongeBob, which you know he secretly likes. even though he gives him a very hard time. I mean, SpongeBob, you could line up a little bit, but there they are. A huge plot twist that's hilarious. So this is it. We are at the #1 spot. The moment you guys have been waiting for. What is the best episode in season 1 in my opinion? Well, the pinnacle of SpongeBob and the grand tier episode taking first place gracefully has to go to Sleepy Time. This may or may not come as a shocker, but to me, I will argue on this episode because this episode to me is just everything. This episode is amazing. You get character development everywhere in every aspect. You can see what other characters are like, what their dreams are, how they really are in person. We even get to hear Gary talk and hear his thoughts. We see Plankton as the villain he wishes he was. Being on that seahorse ride needing a quarter is hilarious. This episode just has that vibe for when you see it, you always think of nostalgia and good times. I think invading Squidward's dream is one of the most hilarious aspects of this, because he makes it worse but better at the same time, so it's even more like a nightmare for Squidward. Sweet dream but a beautiful nightmare, as you can see. Squidward's trying to impress a king, so SpongeBob turns into a clarinet that makes such beautiful music that the king cries tears of joy. Squidward is happy, and then they play for everyone to hear and see. I mean, we even get Pearl development. This is such a great episode in my opinion in every form. Season 2, once again, an amazing watch and an amazing season. None of these episodes in particular are bad. I would happily watch any of them if they came on. But unfortunately, something does have to be last. And starting with C tier in 39th place is the smoking peanut. SpongeBob causes a disturbance at the Oyster Stadium, leading everyone to try and find out who the culprit is because apparently this clam is very nice. Everyone loves this clam and no one would ever get hurt by it. Now, the main reason I'm ranking this so low is just because it's kind of on the very non-action side. SpongeBob is just mainly worried and we feel very bad for him because Patrick this entire time is trying to find out who did it and then takes the blame for it. And there's a lot of memes that come from this episode. Once again, I want to make sure this is clear. None of these episodes are bad or even mid. They're all good. This is just C tier, which is a very short list. There's not many that make it to C. In the back of my mind, this episode was always here, but I almost let it slip away until I rewatched it for this video. Like, I remember all the frames and memes, but not from this episode in particular. And though it does end up with a happy semi-ending, it's gonna sit comfortably at this placement. At 38th spot is I'm with Stupid. This episode is hilarious. Basically, SpongeBob has to help Patrick get ready for when his parents come over because Patrick is very self-conscious about it. And he wants to make sure that he's ready to impress them. And so in order to impress them, SpongeBob is going to act very, very ignorant so Patrick looks very, very intelligent. But Patrick obviously goes overboard as he always do. And he treats SpongeBob so poorly and so much like he's actually dumb, to the point that SpongeBob actually becomes really irritated. And we obviously understand why, because SpongeBob just wanted to be a homie, but Patrick is abusing the situation. All of that just to find out at the very end that they weren't even his real parents, and his real parents are these bozos. He ends up finding them. He's perceived as kinda dumb because he forgot who his own parents were, and he doesn't care. They all laugh, they love each other. The episode ends in a happy manner that I think we can all enjoy. 37th is The Secret Box, and it's a little sad it's this low considering what episode this is paired with. It's just not that this episode is bad, it's just so anticlimactic to the point where if you rewatch it, there's just really no value. you. And that's really the only downside to this episode, because SpongeBob breaking in this entire scene right here is hilarious. I'll tell you what Patrick has in that box is definitely worth seeing. Just in case you haven't seen this episode, I want to make sure you can watch it, because like I said, once you know, there's really no point in watching this. So make sure to watch the episode to find out what is in the box. 36 is Big Pink Loser. Patrick gets a reward in the mail that he thinks is for him, but it's actually for SpongeBob. And so Patrick becomes jealous because SpongeBob has all of these awards for literally everything, and Patrick doesn't even have one. And so this wad of gum decides to become SpongeBob, and then we get a hilarious meme born from this episode. No, this is Patrick. Not to mention the lid, which I reference to this day whenever my friends are fumbling on something simple. Patrick, once again being himself, overdoes it to the point where SpongeBob is once again annoyed, and so after a small argument and debacle with Patrick has seemed to accept defeat. However, that is exactly what he needed to do to earn the Guinness World Record of the world's laziest person, and he couldn't be happier with this title. And so obviously, being the champ he is, he's gonna continue to hold the WR. And you know what? Patrick will always be on that leaderboard. Number 35 is Grandma's Kisses. Now obviously the most memorable scene from this is actually the cookies themselves, because they look incredible. I think the biggest downfall from this episode though is there's not very many memes made from it. It's just a very good episode written from point A all the way to B and C, but doesn't really go above and beyond. SpongeBob just gets picked on a little bit, Grandma convinces him it's okay, and even though SpongeBob didn't appreciate everyone teasing him and taunting him, he found himself to be jealous when Patrick was hogging all of the light and affection, and I don't blame him. Look at him, he looks comfy. The episode ends with Granny making it all better, and just because of how mundane and wholehearted this episode is, it is ranked a little bit lower on the tier. 34 is Procrastination, which I know I messed that word up a little bit, just excuse me. And I know a lot of people might actually really like this episode and rank B, A, or even S. And part of me doesn't even blame them, because there is a lot of amazing, funny, and potential moments in this episode. Because SpongeBob is just like the rest of us and procrastinating, or videos or editing that needs to be done. But this episode as a child just kind of spooked me, because you can't even lie, if this would show up at like 2 a.m. this would be one of those like creepy, eerie moods, you know, especially in the dark in the living room. You know what else used to creep me out? The Avatar The Last Airbender at the end of every episode. That shit was menacing at like 3 a.m. Should I rank the Avatar series? Let me know. But yeah, SpongeBob ends up doing all of this work just for the paper to not even matter, and honestly, SpongeBob, this reaction, I don't blame you. Same. And the very last one on C tier is Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 3. The third installment is coming in at a clean 33rd place. It's all about the young heroes, or whatever you may call them. To me, they're heroes. But basically, for some whatever reason, they decide to trust and leave the responsibility of the mermaid lair to SpongeBob and Patrick, which you should have known from the beginning was going to be a terrible idea. They have one of the most villainous villains in here, and you're just going to let SpongeBob and Patrick be the babysitter. That kind of irresponsibility should be illegal. So obviously he gets freed, but I don't even care, because it leads up to a whole bunch of moments that are funny and iconic. The episode ends with Man Ray turning good. Now starting off with B tier, we have Bossy Boot. Now this one was really close from just staying into C tier, because that's where it originally was. But something about this episode has like flair and a certain charm to it, where I feel like when you watch it, you're always happy. It's hilarious seeing Pearl try to make everything young, hip. SpongeBob obviously doesn't want to serve or cook no salad. But thankfully, Mr. Krabs and his cheapskate habits have made him seen better or worse of the ways. And so basically he has SpongeBob fire Pearl, But that's alright, cause Pearl wanted to get fired anyway. She was only here cause she thought Mr. Krabs wanted her to be here. So after she leaves, Mr. Krabs turns everything back to normal. Curious on what happens to everything in the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob has decided to buy it, and I won't even lie, this Gary scene is adorable. 31st is no free ride. SpongeBob fails his driver's license test so many times that Mrs. Puff cannot mentally handle it anymore. And this leads her to an emotional breakdown where she ultimately decides that the best course of action is to just go ahead and give SpongeBob the license. But because she did this, this leads SpongeBob parents to celebrating by giving SpongeBob a brand new boatmobile. Mrs. Puff already knows that SpongeBob can't drive, so right now she's sweating. She just decides to steal the car. I don't even know what she was planning to do with it. Probably sell it, go on a nice vacation. She deserves it, honestly. He eventually finds out it is indeed Mrs. Puff. He can't even believe his eyes. Mrs. Puff, unfortunately, has to go to jail because of SpongeBob, but it's not even that bad considering that she does not have to be around him, and we all know that Mrs. Puff wants free time away from SpongeBob. Coming in at number 30 is Squirrel Jokes, and I know this one also might be very high on a lot of people's lists. But keep in mind, this episode heavily focuses on him making fun of Sandy for almost no reason. And he didn't like it when Patrick was making him feel dumb, so he should know not to do this. And so because of him making a whole bunch of squirrel jokes to the town, she has to face repercussions because of it. And so due to being discriminated against, she decides to act exactly as he portrays her in the joke. It's funny, but at the same time, it's a little bit odd of an episode in some sad and funny odd ways. So to make it all better, SpongeBob starts making fun of himself instead of squirrels, and the audience actually likes it all the same, maybe even more, until he starts roasting Mr. Krabs, that is. He's basically being Berleezy this episode. He knocks them dead with the performance, and this episode is a deserving B tier. I'm surprised we didn't get a sequel. Shanghai at 29th place. I put it here because it is an amazing episode with quite a few memes attached to it. It is rated a little bit lower because you can't lie, as a child when Pirate Patchy came on, it kind of halted the mood because you're like, where's SpongeBob at? I don't care about this funk booty pirate and his parrot. So this monologue does bring it down a little, but that doesn't matter because either way, this episode is great, and the fact we have SpongeBob, Squidward, and Patrick, the voice actors were going crazy in the booth that night. I think that the pirate picking on Squidward the entire episode is hilarious. To this day, I still say the phrase, "we'll buff out those scratches." And this perfume running scene is iconic and everyone loves it. This is how it feels walking through New York City. By the way, I just want to say that this episode is a lot longer than most, and I'm assuming it's because of Patchy the Pirate. It ends with all of them becoming fruit. Patchy the Pirate is a vegan now, and he wants them for his smoothie. That's a very, very nice van, by the way. I like the smiley face. In 28th place is Krusty Love. Mr. Krabs falls hopelessly in love with Mrs. Puff, but unfortunately there's one problem, and it's the fact that Mr. Krabs has exactly 0 riz and Mrs. Puff is still wanting some crabs. She likes the ragoon, you feel me? There's a very funny date segment, and even though Mr. Krabs gets angry every time SpongeBob buys something, he keeps insisting SpongeBob does so anyway. Mr. Krabs is basically gaslighting him over and over, giving him the peer pressure, leading to one of the first moments we see SpongeBob having an actual emotional breakdown, getting angry. But Mrs. Puff already got that bread, and so they try to hit things off without SpongeBob there and without Mr. Krabs buying a lot of stuff for Mrs. Puff. Squid's Day Off in 27th place. Mr. Krabs eats at Arby's and he has to go to the hospital. Squidward is then given permission as manager, and the first thing he does is immediately clock out. He leaves SpongeBob to attend the register, but for some reason Squidward keeps hyperventilating and overthinking, wondering if SpongeBob is gonna destroy the Krusty Krab or not. And if he does that, that would leave Mr. Krabs to blame Squidward, so he keeps running back and forth to check on him. Are you running those errands? Just like most episodes from season 1 through 3, this episode is filled with hilarious moments. And after being anxiety-ridden and filled, he learns that the sign said closed all day and they weren't even open. Squidward, I don't blame you. I would probably implode as well, my boy. Pre-hibernation week, coming in 26th place. Sandy has a lot of work to do before winter arrives, but SpongeBob doesn't know anything about that. And so Sandy freaks out trying to get all the work done, and SpongeBob helps her. But then she spends the rest of her time before hibernation doing dangerous acts with SpongeBob. Hey, SpongeBob got that Mama Pratt action. Scaring SpongeBob to the point he doesn't even want to be here anymore. So he obviously goes into hiding to protect himself. And this leads Sandy to freak out and cause a national search. The entire Bikini Bottom searching for him. And I just want to say that these segments right here about people doubting her and thinking she crazy, I think it's hilarious. Him trying to pass off this dude as SpongeBob and Sandy saying, "No, you ain't," is hilarious. But by the time Sandy finds him, hibernation already started and she fell asleep. SpongeBob's lifespan is saved, and that is a good episode. 25th place is Survival of the Idiots. This episode is actually kind of funny because it's one of the few canon events we have. Like, Sandy goes into hibernation, and then the next episode, if you ignore the Christmas special, is her being in hibernation, which Patrick and SpongeBob raid her home. I don't know why she don't got that lock and key. They end up waking her, in which she gets really mad. And one of the main reasons I rank this over the last episode higher is because of the fact that she gets physically aggressive. There's the Dirty Dance segment. They basically have to do an imagination fight and then run for their lives because they woke Sandy up, and I can't imagine how it is waking something up from like their natural hibernation. One moment she's chilling and the next moment she angry. Patrick obviously gets mauled first and he does not look happy. However, they found out they were stuck in her dome for the entirety of the hibernation period, so they have no choice but to steal some of her fur to keep warm. She finds out about it, and so because of this, she punishes them by using them as a jacket. The last one on the B tier, 24th place, is Jellyfish Hunter. This episode is iconic because SpongeBob is the ultimate jellyfish master. During this time, he is able to get jelly and he catches a shiny. And by a shiny, I mean a rare blue jellyfish. I'm pretty sure it's just their version of albino. SpongeBob, for some reason, likes his food weird, and so he puts jelly on his cheeseburger. This guy hears him busting a nut over there over a burger, so he's like, "Give me a bite." His marriage is depressing, and he wants anything that'll make him happy. So after taking a bite, this man is instantly hooked, all the way to the point where he has an Eric Cartman style sing-along and music theatrical, busting a whole song and dance about how good this patty is. He hooks everyone up as the jellyfish plug, and he instantly has customers waiting in line. However, this is Mr. Krabs' block. If anyone's moving jelly, it's gonna be Mr. Krabs. So Mr. Krabs collects so many jellyfish that it needs a factory, and SpongeBob finds out about this, and this is very inhumane. Bad Mr. Krabs. Mr. Krabs gets the karma he deserves, and all of the jellyfish, thanks to SpongeBob, are let free. Jellyfish and SpongeBob become friends at the end, and it's a pretty good conclusion. Starting off, the B+ tier is Artist Unknown. So I felt like adding a B+ tier was necessary, because there was a couple episodes that just went a little bit higher, just not at A though. This being one of them. I might have a personal bias to this episode due to some YTPs. Squidward is an art teacher and his only student is SpongeBob, of course. But what's even worse is that Spongebob actually outshines Squidward in every way and form. Squidward tries to do his own touches, which I think are very funny, and Squidward eventually loses it, hitting his breaking point, making a mess out of everything, just because SpongeBob is a little bit better than he is. But what he doesn't know is he made something even better. This is an actual statue. 22nd place is Welcome to the Chum Bucket. Mr. Krabs, being the crustaceous cheapskate he is, gambles SpongeBob away, which I don't even know he's legally allowed to do. I mean, he might be if SpongeBob signed a contract. And even though this episode is filled with hilarious and iconic moments, this episode is heavily carried by the duo song that SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs puts on. I kinda like it when cartoons used to do like these little duets, as long as it's not in a cringe Disney manner or something like that. I believe SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs both got vocals, and SpongeBob was able to get his job back, so this episode deserves B+. 21 is Imitation Krabs. Unlike the episode where they think Mr. Krabs is replaced by a robot, he actually is replaced by a robot this time. Controlled by the one and only Plankton as well. And I can't even lie, season 1 through 4 Plankton was hilarious. SpongeBob somehow doesn't realize that he's a robot. Mr. Krabs basically has to prove he's the real one, in which he fails because he can't answer questions. That is until the robot blows up over at the Chum Bucket and Mr. Krabs is about to be a dinner special. SpongeBob is able to save him, undoing the harm he has done. He also got back the formula, so Mr. Krabs ain't even that peeved. Mr. Krabs, I can't even lie, the fries that came with you looked good. Now we are at the top 20 episodes of season 2, starting with Wormy. Now I think it's obvious why this isn't B+ instead of just B, because this episode is very unique and, dare I say, quirky. SpongeBob and Patrick are entrusted in taking care of a worm. That is until Wormy becomes a butterfly. And for some reason, Wormy becoming a butterfly freaks them out. And instead of connecting the dots, they believe that the butterfly ate Wormy and they freak out all the time. This entire episode is them freaking out, making the town freak out for no reason. Up until Sandy comes back from her little vacay, she captures the butterfly and everyone believes she's a rank 3 hero. For some reason, SpongeBob is on court in this, which I don't even understand considering he started this. Number 19, I'm your biggest fanatic. We got Patrick touching everything even though he's told not to. We got Kevin the Pickle, hilarious character that I wish they would bring back. SpongeBob is in love with this dude Kevin, to the point where he'll do anything that Kevin says, and he even impresses him by catching a lot of jellyfish. But then while he's being set up as bait by Kevin, Kevin is secretly controlling a robot jellyfish that's attacking SpongeBob, until he gets his karma where a real king jellyfish comes into play, and this jellyfish is feeling romantic. Very romantic, run Kevin. SpongeBob is able to escape, Kevin gets his karma, and Patrick is somehow able to kidnap this legendary jellyfish. Sandy, SpongeBob, and the worm, this is obviously a goated episode. Sandy, being a Texan, she hears about a worm that's going around town causing a menace, and so she believes she can actually defeat it, but she has one thing wrong. Is that's the worm's tongue, not actually the worm. I don't know how a worm is big enough to even try and swallow a squirrel, so that worm has to be gigantic. I remember watching this episode a lot, and you know what? I don't even mind, because this is a really good episode. Lucky number 17 is the graveyard shift. Mr. Krabs has decided that the Krusty Krabs is going to be open 24/7. This episode is the one with the hash slinging slasher, and that alone is super high ranking. This almost hit A tier, but but I feel like compared to A tier episodes, this doesn't hit it quite right. Because even though this is a really, really good episode, this isn't an episode you could watch over and over in a short amount of time. Where some episodes you can watch one day and watch it 2 days later. Squidward is freaked out because his story is becoming true. I'm starting to realize that anyone that messes with Spongebob gets insta karma. I don't know, if I saw that, I'd be pretty spooked too. It ends up just being someone who's trying to get a job, in which I'm assuming he takes over the night shift. This ending segment is a little weird as a child, but it's whatever. Number 16, this is the last of the B tiers, and this is Something Smells. Spongebob creates a diabolically disgusting hot fudge sundae that uses ketchup, onion, not to mention a dash of the T-virus. And he ends up eating the whole thing too, causing his breath to reek something immensely fierce. A lot of funny moments that you've probably seen over and over again. And he thinks it's because he's ugly, but it's actually just cause his breath is rank. And so when he finds out it's just his breath, he's actually very, very happy about it. Because you can brush your teeth, but you can't brush away ugly. The first one on the A tier is Squid on Strike, and I think everyone can agree this is a fire episode. Mr. Krabs is a big cheapskate, so much so it's to the point that SpongeBob is paying him to work, and Squidward is fed up, and I don't even blame him, because Mr. Krabs is a crustaceous cheapskate, and everyone knows that. Hey Squidward, I never noticed you had teeth like that either. Squidward got them pearly whites, which I suppose is better than SpongeBob, who has the Timmy Turner teeth with the ballsack crimson chin. Except it's not even crimson chin, it's just all chin. Peter Griffin type shit. After SpongeBob and Squidward start the strike, Mr. Krabs immediately starts trying to find other employees. And we get hilarious segments from Squidward trying to rally up, start a union, getting the strike all ready to go. And though he tries his best for a valiant effort, everything he does is kinda just a flop. However, Squidward doesn't even have to worry because the teenagers Mr. Krabs hired, he absolutely hates. They're clingy, they're all trying to get his job, they all want to be manager. They don't know how to change the coffee filters, they don't know how to do the correct change at night, they don't know how to do lotto, they don't know how to do anything. Not to mention they're giving all of their friends like free food and drink and whatnot. Mr. Krabs, even though he's not too happy, SpongeBob did get what he wanted. And they get to work at the Krusty Krab for as long as they want and for eternity. Coming in at number 14 is Gary Takes a Bath. This was on a VHS tape that I used to own, and this was also on DVD bundles that I used to own. And this has so many funny moments in it. Gary doesn't care at all that SpongeBob has a bomb. Of course, we have subliminal images. Hilarious Mr. Krabs drive-by segment. And I think one of the best jokes in SpongeBob history is doubloons, don't drop them. At the end, Gary is able to outwit SpongeBob, and it is him who is actually taking a bath. Gary, you are one very sly snail. Lucky number 13, sad but hilarious. We have dumped the infamous episode where Gary supposedly chooses Patrick. We all know what really happens, even though Gary spends the entire day with Patrick. Maybe it's because Gary likes him a little bit, but that is not entirely the reason. I think this snail right here is hilarious, and I would love a sequel. And even though a lot of the episode is poor little SpongeBob being sad because he thought Gary betrayed him, I think it's all making up for by the climax of the episode, in which the joke is that Gary didn't like Patrick, Gary didn't like Patrick short, he didn't ignore SpongeBob, it wasn't any of that. He just simply wanted the cookie that was in Patrick's pocket. And after the 30 milligram edible, he goes right back to SpongeBob. They become friends again. Patrick is the only one left without a redemption arc. Number 12 is Dying for Pie. Everyone automatically recognizes this episode just by the title. SpongeBob harasses Squidward all day up to the point he's making sweaters with his eyelashes. Which I won't even lie, I'm on Squidward's side. That is weird. And then he makes one of his tears, which is hilarious. So for all of this kindness, what does Squidward do in return? He buys a pie from Wish.com. He thinks it has a bomb in it, and it kinda does. They are unfortunately under the impression that SpongeBob ate the pie. Squidward feels bad that he's about to kill SpongeBob, and so he has to spend the entire day with him doing whatever SpongeBob wants. So after getting a list of Starfield non-campaign quests, along with cosplaying as EDP, the day ends with Squidward and SpongeBob both looking into the sunset. Squidward's waiting for it. SpongeBob still has the explosive pie, in which it immediately blasts Squidward. R.I.P. the homies SpongeBob and Squidward. The last one on A tier is your shoes untied. This part right here alone is instant A tier. It is almost in the A+ tier. We got an entire funny segment with Patrick, the shoes being untied. We realized that SpongeBob doesn't even know how to tie shoes, which when I was a child, this was very relatable because I was big dumb. I didn't know how to tie my shoes until I was like 12. Patrick obviously doesn't know how to tie his shoes though, but the thing is, SpongeBob forgot how to. This prohibits him greatly from working, aggravating both Squidward and Mr. Krabs along with the customers. After being inspired by Nick Avocado, Squidward has decided to just outright tell Mr. Krabs him nor Squidward know how to tie shoes either, and basically everyone in the Bikini Bottom area is useless. But of course, there's always one person SpongeBob can count on, the one person who will always clutch. SpongeBob's Alfred is obviously the one and only Gary who knows how to tie shoes and wears them. They have an entire musical about how to tie your shoes. I'm sure for a lot of kids this helped. For me though, like I said, I was big dumb, and even watching this show so many times, specifically this episode, I still didn't know how to tie my shoes, and I always wore Velcro. Starting off with A+, we have the SpongeBob Christmas Special, number 10. Obviously, this has to be top 10. It's literally a SpongeBob Christmas Special. I'm sure even watching this now, you're like, dang, this is nostalgia. Cause everything about this episode is 100%, and it almost deserves S tier. Everything in the A+ is in the A+ for a reason, trust me. The entire cast and the entire Bikini Bottom gathers around to celebrate Christmas, their very first Christmas. Everything is decorated fancy up, and it's a very good vibe, and I'm sure the animators of this probably really enjoyed it. Even though at first Squidward was an op and he really wanted to ruin Christmas just like the Grinch. Seeing everyone in the town, especially SpongeBob, be sad, it made his heart grow 3 times the size. And Squidward decided to pull a Grinch, become Santa Claus, and gave everything he owned away. In which, in a shocking turn of events, the real Santa Claus comes around. Lovely green screen, by the way. Hey, that actor got real goofy. Coming in at number 9 is Sailor Mouth. I don't even really think I need to say anything about why this is in A tier and in the top 9. Squidward smells he's stinky. As soon as they learned the F word, they couldn't help but keep saying it. I don't even want to know what Squidward just heard. Escalators and Eels is from this episode, and that's a W. Lots of hilarious moments from this episode, and when Mr. Krabs starts swearing, SpongeBob and Patrick decide to snitch on him to his own mom, in which she just immediately collapses right there. But it's all good because swearing runs in the family. I think she knows more swear words than Mr. Krab. And it ends as a pretty good episode. Top 8 is Pressure. SpongeBob and Sandy are at odds as they need to decide who is better, or more specifically, what is better, underwater creatures or creatures that come from the land and above. The entire squad decides to gang up and roast her. Pause-worthy? Should I pause that? The fact that the entire gang is here kinda makes this episode very elevated. I wish there was more like it where they're all this heavily present. The voice actors in the booth that night were doing some great work. I won't even lie, this part right here hurt. I just want to add this in for no reason. After being humiliated and forced to wear a pickle jar to survive, she wants them to put their money where their mouth is and go up top to the land to test out their might. And they say bet, they are not scared. I won't even lie, the reason this episode is so high is not only do we have an amazing cast, hilarious jokes all throughout the episode, but it's super very unique. And it's not unique enough to throw us off as like a kid. It's like something that you want to watch and you're hooked. And it's funny enough to be like, wow, that was interesting. After birds start attacking the group, Sandy has to save them, in which they all understand that their differences is actually supported and they should befriend each other regardless. At a clean number 7 is Squidville. Now these next few episodes are just so close to each other, it was very hard to rank, cause season 2 was filled with amazing god tier episodes. Squidward has finally had enough of SpongeBob and Patrick, and decides that perhaps it's somewhere else that he should live. So he immediately moves into a suburban neighborhood, filled with NPCs, copy and paste houses. It's almost like a cult, in which he really enjoys it day to day. We can't forget the canned bread. Life is going pretty well for Squidward, until everything starts to get repetitive and predictable. A very boring, stagnant life. Yeah, he hates SpongeBob and Patrick, but at least they brought unexpected moments and memories. He starts to have goofy withdrawals in which he starts to play with a reef blower. Squidward starts to be a town menace as he terrorizes everyone there. He's just being him for whatever reason. SpongeBob and Patrick are here to get him back, but they don't even need to be here. He wants to leave, which is probably for the best because the citizen squids also want him to leave. And you know what? It actually ends pretty well. They get Squidward back. Top 6 happily entering this is Frankendoodle. Now this one is very close to me because I was actually very close to getting Doodlebob tattooed on my ankle. I accidentally ghosted my tattoo artist, and then the day I went, she ghosted me, and so I never got it, but eventually I probably will. SpongeBob receives a magical pencil that can bring anything to life, so he decides to draw himself, give him 2 left feet and everything, introducing the god tier character, Mihoy Minoy type beat. But unlike SpongeBob, he is a menace and cares for no one. A lot of amazing memes come from this episode. Where's the leak, ma'am is one of my favorite moments. And eventually, SpongeBob is able to conquer Doodlebob and erase him. Or at least, so he thought. Doodlebob, with just a hand, cobblepots his way to SpongeBob and survives. SpongeBob is double cheeked up, but he gets rid of it until he realizes that Doodlebob's weakness is paper. So he traps them in the book. Doodlebob suddenly becomes happy. Perhaps that's all he wanted. Like a Meeseeks, he only wants one purpose, and that's to be on paper. It's a very quirky episode. Number 5, and starting off with the S tier, is Life of Crime. And now S tier, there's a difference between A, because these are the top 5 episodes of the season. That means it really has to shine and outperform. And I think this episode does it with the hilarious moments in it. And the confusion and everything is just great. It's a perfect childhood episode. Basically, SpongeBob and Patrick, quote unquote, steal a balloon, but it pops. They freak out thinking they're criminals. And if they don't pay for the balloon, they're gonna go to jail. How does campfires work underwater? Buns and thighs. Not to mention the chocolate bars, aka rectangles. There are just so many iconic moments. Patrick thinks that SpongeBob ate his chocolate bar. Now he's gonna starve. And so they both get mad at each other and try to rat on each other just to figure out that it's free balloon day. And they both get suckers. And for the most part, it's a pretty happy ending. Definitely worth the S tier. Number 4 is gonna go to Bubble Buddy. Obviously, everyone expected this episode to be high tier. I still reference Leif Erikson Day to this day. It's a very good line, I recommend it. SpongeBob, in terms of loneliness, decides to create a Bubble Buddy in which he really enjoys. He torments Squidward, in which Squidward has to do this very funny scene where he caters to Bubble Buddy's every single need. And I won't even lie, this shampoo looked good. This cartwheel patty stuff looks great. And how can we forget Bubble Money, the best currency in all of the land? After Bubble Buddy commits manslaughter and they are seeking revenge. Bubble Buddy, however, decides to prove them all wrong and shows that he has consciousness and he is an alive person. They do a follow-up episode on this in a later season with his son, and I won't even lie, it's not that bad. So Bubble Buddy, I know he has a good time, hopefully a good future. Also, I don't want to leave out the scene where it's Boo Boo Keys, Snake Eyes, Muffler, Jerky, all of that. It's an amazing scene and an amazing episode all around. The top 3 were so hard to choose between, and coming in at number 3 is the Fry Cook game. Immediately you can see the quality and love put into this episode, as Mr. Krabs and Plankton fight each other for this year's title. It's basically like the Olympics but for fry cooks. Mr. Krabs was the defending champ, but now they have to train others to take their place. Mr. Krabs training SpongeBob, and after an argument and dispute between SpongeBob and Patrick decides, you know what, I can do this too. Being a fry cook isn't that hard, let me get in on the action. And so Plankton hires Patrick to be on his side, that way it would potentially throw SpongeBob off. And every moment that happens here is extremely iconic. This entire episode is very playful and imaginative, and I very much so like it. I could definitely, without a doubt, watch this episode alone over and over again. It's very good. Also, I want to mention that the scene where Patrick has to go into ice cream mode, it is very, very much so funny. They have to do this boxing ring style kind of fight, and I won't even lie, this fight scene right here is cool as all. There's one moment in here that I feel like Dan Schneider was in the booth and he was telling them what to do. But if you ignore that, this entire episode is just definitely deserving of S tier. They decide that they're not so different. They get along, they make up, you know how it is. Very goofy scene to see, and I feel like everyone should watch this. This was almost number 1, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Patty Hype is just one of those episodes that everyone remembers. In a way to bring more customers to the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob has decided to make something innovative called Pretty Patties. Mr. Krabs, however, doesn't like them at all, and him and Squidward both roast SpongeBob, which is very, very sad to see. But SpongeBob is able to prove Mr. Krabs wrong because they are able to sell thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of patties. Not only that, but they're giving away money like it's nothing. So it's charity, patties, delectable food, everything. How is Mr. Krabs gonna even compete? And I know they changed the color of your tongue, but I don't even care. I would still try one. Maybe not one of those gray ones back there, but definitely a purple or blue one. Mr. Krabs decides to try and fool SpongeBob. He says, you can have the Krusty Krab, all you gotta do is hand over all the licensing and business rights for the Pretty Patty franchise, and the Krusty Krab is yours. And obviously SpongeBob wants that more than anything else, and he immediately falls in love with the Krusty Krab. Mr. Krabs, however, didn't get FDA approval, and so all of his patties made different parts of people's body change in very different ways. I won't even lie, a glow-in-the-dark tongue, that might be a plus, assuming it's not radioactive. SpongeBob, what kind of coloring dye did you use in those patties? Squeaky pickles, by the way, we can't forget those. Mr. Krabs, due to his greed, is run off. Very nice episode. And at number 1, I'm sorry if it's a little bit predictable, but the truth is just there. The facts are facts. Band Geeks has to be one of the best, if not the best, episode ever made. Squidward, for some reason, wants to impress Squilliam Fancy Son, and so he tries to get the entirety of Bikini Bottom together to form a band. Patrick asks if mayonnaise is an instrument, which is hilarious. And obviously, everyone at Bikini Bottom isn't too fit to be in a band. Too bad that didn't kill me is a banger line. The Patrick Sandy fight, very nice. You think Patrick would have learned to not fight Sandy, but he gets the same treatment later on in the episode. I like how you can see Pearl in the background right there. R.I.P. these two fish right here who'd make liftoff, and they have an accident. Big Meaty Claws is one of my favorite lines. This entire Bikini Bottom fight scene, I wish we had more of it. However, because of this, Squidward is left feeling hopeless and he just gives up on them. But then they all get the 3 a.m. energy and they come prepared to show Squidward what a good song sounds like. And this song is so fire, so amazing and nostalgic that it was presented at the actual Super Bowl. And I really suggest that you listen to this song right after this video. It's always a good listen, maybe even goosebumps if you really like cartoon. Where's the Spotify release? Is this on Spotify? Someone let me know. Everyone killed it out here. Everyone did their part in the band. And I'm so happy to make this #1. Just like the 2 prior seasons, there are no D or F tiers. The episodes are heat and I'm willing to watch any of them. Even this one right here. Even though it does rank the lowest on this tier list, placing at 37. A lot of the episodes that have continuous moments and just oversaturated amounts of Patchy the Pirate or other are just something. Damn, those deviled eggs look good, bro. It's just something I'm not too interested in. I want to see SpongeBob, maybe a little bit of Patchy, monologuing or whatever here and there. But not only is this episode like 80% Patchy, maybe like 65% minimum, it's also just a whole bunch of SpongeBob being clowned on as he keeps trying to be narcissistic and think everything he does in his way is the way it should be. So not only is he getting clowned on, but he kinda deserves it, low-key. Now coming in at number 36 is the SpongeBob SquarePants Lost episode, which once again is just so much Patchy, more than the last one. The only reason it's higher than the other one is because you do get a full-length good episode that's basically uninterrupted, in which the other one has many moments of Patchy. This one is just Patchy, an entire fire episode, and then Patchy. This SpongeBob was kind of integrated into like a 2-episode special kind of, but just one. It's the sponge who could fly. He does a great job at it. He's very passionate about wanting to fly, and it is a funny episode with a lot of good moments, especially with old man Jenkins right there, bro. He looks like a shriveled up prune. Not only does SpongeBob get to fly and like live his dream, but he also gets to be a hero in this. And even though he was done dirty, he tried his best to be helpful. He tried his best to be a hero, and that's all he wanted to do was help some people and then fly, but people got too greedy. Okay, this one might be a controversial one because a lot of people like this one, and I do want to say, if it wasn't for all of the Patchy moments and the weird moments like this and stuff, this episode would be S tier. But when I was a child, this one kind of gave me anxiety, low-key. Patrick, that looked like it hurt, bro. Alright, look what they do to poor Mr. Crab. This episode does have a lot of memes that come from it and a lot of funny moments, but it is a 23-minute episode, and if you clipped all the Patchy and whatever moments from it that aren't like the episode, you'd get like a 14-minute episode. So half of this is just filler. And the last one on the C tier is the Krusty Krab training video. This one, to people who may have not seen it a lot, is probably A, B, S tier, something like that. But when I was growing up, this is an episode I would see so many times, and I'd be looking forward to watching SpongeBob or something just to get hit with a non-episode. Like, yeah, it's funny, yeah, it's good, but why did they play it so much? However, it is on top of the C tier. Since Patrick is shook, I think it's best we move on to B. Coming in at 33rd, the first one on the B tier is My Pretty Seahorse. This one just isn't as hype as the others. It doesn't got a lot of lore, a lot of reasoning behind it, really. But what SpongeBob episodes do. I just think out of all the fireness that's in this season, the funniest part to me is when he brings it to work and the whole dynamic between that. Mr. Krabs getting angry over it. The coin slot is a lot, bruh. In 32nd is Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 4. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy left behind Toolkit or their magic belt or whatever that is, the Wumbo, and SpongeBob kinda goes around shrinking everyone and putting them in the jar, which by the way did not age well. This episode sometimes is just weird. It is kinda funny though. It has a lot of funny moments. At 31 is the Strangler, or SpongeBob meets the Strangler. Basically, SpongeBob becomes a snitch. He rats out this dude for littering, and it ends up being that he is a notorious murderer. I know, fire SpongeBob plot. And now SpongeBob is afraid that he will get found and murked by the Strangler, so he hires a bodyguard who just ends up being the Strangler. He keeps pissing the Strangler off in a lot of hilarious fashions, in which I think is the sole reason this episode is where it's at and above the others. It's just cause it does have humor, especially with the cleats, bro. He was not prepared. The last one in the 30s, at 30th, is Snowball Effect. I believe for the first time or something, it starts snowing in Bikini Bottom, and everyone uses this to their advantage to have fun or like cause mayhem, skenive. Even Squidward like gets in on the fun. He builds a snowball fort trying to play, a snowball fight, except he's way too good at it. So while everyone else is scared and hiding, Squidward is out here looking for people to murder. And this episode in general is very good, especially to watch near the holidays. I'd recommend everyone watch this one. It is pretty fun. I mean, look at SpongeBob and Patrick, bro. Look how comfy they are. That's a vibe right there. Coming in at 29, full of very funny moments, is I Had an Accident. The very favorable, iconic, funny moments in this episode kinda saves it, cause the plot by itself is a little bit weird, and there's that moment with the gorilla, but Patrick and Sandy carry this episode, and that's mainly why I like it, cause it's not like super focused on SpongeBob. Yeah, it's revolved around his issue, but he's not the main punchline in this. It's Patrick and Sandy. Who can forget the penny, the tissue, the potato chip, and of course, Patrick throwing it back. And then it just kind of ends off on a weird note with like a very poorly green screen CGI gorilla. That for like literally no reason at the very end of an episode just hops on whatever animal that is. I'm assuming a horse. And it shows a family at the end, and I agree 100%. This is probably what everyone looks like watching this episode. Coming in at number 28 is Plankton's Army, which I can't even lie, this is like a really fire episode when it comes to meme status and like more on the advanced humor of things, if that's what you can even call it. Plankton decides it's a good idea to hire his family members to come like try and get the Krabby Patty formula from Mr. Krabs, only to be met with thousands of him to fight, which obviously he can't do. And Mr. Krabs' way of getting rid of Plankton and his entire families to basically just scare them into thinking that the secret recipe is Plankton. And obviously after that, the rest of them follow along and the Krusty Krab is safe again. Mr. Krabs, you did it. It's a good episode. A lot of moments to laugh at. Just turn your brain off and watch. Number 27, SpongeBob was able to star into a commercial on the episode As Seen on TV. And SpongeBob's entire moment is just literally his chin and arm in a frame of the commercial. He lets that get to his head and he starts thinking he's famous basically, which leads up to like one of my favorite moments. He starts singing about a striped sweater to this poor dude who just wants a sandwich, which is very humorous, or at least in my opinion. Then SpongeBob realizes if he wants to be famous, all he has to do is grill patties because everyone loves him for that. So basically SpongeBob left his job because he was famous, and he found out it was for the best because he found what he was good at. Coming in at 26 is Doing Time. This is the episode where because of SpongeBob, Mrs. Puff gets sent to prison, and honestly this I thought was gonna be in like the S tier or something, but this season just has so many fire ones. I do really like this episode just because I think Mrs. Puff enjoying jail know, more than being out there with SpongeBob is funny. SpongeBob and Patrick keep trying to break her out even though she doesn't want to be broke out. The police and the guards just think she's crazy and SpongeBob or Patrick are just a hallucination. This entire scene right here, however, is trippy. Even as a child, I was like, bro, they're doing too much in the animation studio, way too much. At number 25, and the last one on the B tier, it is Krabby Land. Basically, Mr. Krabs, he has a scheme, some Ed and Eddie Jawbreaker getting stuff, and he decides that the best advertisement for Krusty Krab is to build Krabby Land, which is basically just a lawsuit waiting to happen. In order to distract the kids, SpongeBob realizes that for some reason they like to see him get hurt, a bunch of evil brats. As the kids are waiting for Krabby the Clown, SpongeBob gets mauled and brutalized, only for SpongeBob and the rest of the kids to feel duped when they realized that all along the person they were looking forward to see was just Mr. Krabs' bitch ass. In which there's a very funny ending and also kinda justice as well. Mr. Krabs get jumped in his own parking lot and then forced to eat lima beans. I'm assuming one of the directors didn't like lima beans. Starting the B+ tier at number 24, we have Missing Identity. Missing Identity, basically SpongeBob loses his identity. He has a very nostalgic noir moment in storytelling where he basically goes over his entire day and he has to keep reliving every moment in order to find his identity due to having a Krusty Krab inspection, you know, very soon, which ends up leading to this episode being very not only funny, but it's like just chock full of jokes. They crammed as many as they could, and I think every time you would watch this episode you'd probably laugh. You'd be like, oh yeah, that's a fire episode, a classic. And it ended up SpongeBob, the entire time he had his ID, his identity, he was just wearing his pants / shirt backwards. And that is the episode where SpongeBob lost his identity. Squilliam Returns has to be one of my favorite, like, Squidward episodes, because it has a little bit of everything. It has karma, justice, Squidward getting his way, and then Squidward getting karma to his name. Mr. Krabs get karma. Basically, Squilliam, he flexes, he shows off his Gucci bucket hat, Squidward's press, and Squidward makes up a lie, basically telling Squilliam he owns the Krusty Krab, and it's a famous, fancy establishment. By the way, Smallest Violin, one of my favorite memes I use to this day. And not only does this episode have Squidward, Patrick, SpongeBob, and Mr. Krabs, which by the way is a fire lineup for an episode, but it has them all interacting and being funny. Eventually, they are able to figure it out. Squilliam is sat down, he enjoys a delicious meal in which everything goes right until SpongeBob decided to start tweaking. He's fiending for, I don't even know what kind of drug makes you do all this, because this is just hostile Grand Theft Auto Trevor Phillips behavior. Like, that looks painful. Squidward gets busted, pause, and the entire, like, operation just goes to shambles, and eventually Squilliam does find out. Hey, but at least Squidward got his fame. Rock-a-bye Bivalve. I know a lot of these episodes for a lot of people are all classics and goats, and trust me, they are to me as well. An F tier in this season would be an S tier in any of the newer seasons. Basically, SpongeBob and Patrick find a little baby clam that needs help, and they take on the role of its parents. And by they, I mean majorly SpongeBob, as Patrick is just kind of the deadbeat dad. I kind of feel bad for SpongeBob in this episode, low-key. Because, yeah, it's, like, super funny with a lot of moments, but Patrick doesn't really get karma for being an asshole, because SpongeBob, he has to do a lot while Patrick literally just goes to work, which, by the way, is just him going home to watch TV, just so he can go back to SpongeBob's home and watch TV even more, leaving SpongeBob to deal with everything. But eventually, they somehow get the clam through childhood, in which, obviously, it appreciates SpongeBob SpongeBob, and it's able to hopefully live its happy life in SpongeBob and Patrick. You know, I guess they had a happy ending until Patrick wanted another. Number 21 is SpongeGuard on Duty. This is a certified classic. Everyone should know this one. SpongeBob basically pretends to be a lifeguard. He mainly wants to do it for the clout, the attention, the fame, everything that comes with it. And so when Larry asks him if he's a lifeguard, he says yes. Now, this lie isn't so bad if it wasn't for the fact that SpongeBob is lying about being able to save people in the water, and he can't even swim. And that eventually does bite him in the butt later. At the cost of Patrick, he tries to prevent everyone from swimming. That way he wouldn't be exposed. But exposure found him because he either has to let his best friend drown or tell everyone he's a fraud. You can call SpongeBob a fraud, but you can't call him a bad friend. Damn, Patrick. And this is one of those episodes where at the end, karma does its thing, and SpongeBob and Patrick does learn to swim. Number 20 is Born Again Crabs. Due to them finding a very disgusting looking patty, a damn hockey puck, Mr. Crab tries it and, well,
oh, I'm fucking dying!
The Flying Dutchman has decided that Mr. Krabs lived an extremely cheap life, way too selfish, and it is time for him to meet Davy Jones' locker. Mr. Krabs very pathetically begs for his life in exchange that Mr. Krabs will be generous and charitable, and he immediately fumbles that by accepting 62 cents for SpongeBob's soul. This is on the top mainly because it's a lot of funny jokes. That's basically every SpongeBob episode, but this one does different aspects of it. Like, SpongeBob is so annoying that not even the devil could stand him. And you know what? At the end, no one really minds, and it is a happy ending. The last one before A tier, number 19, we have New Student Starfish. Patrick decides to go with SpongeBob to his boating school, decides to show him the ropes, and we obviously know this is funny as hell because like Patrick has never even seen the inside of a school. SpongeBob is obviously meat riding Mrs. Puff and has like the teacher's pet status, and then they learn about this episode's main plot relevance, which is the egg. Now, Patrick messing with Mrs. Puff has to be part of the reason why this is so far, because the interactions between SpongeBob and Patrick are hilarious. 24, not 25 comes from this episode, and don't even get me started on Big Fat Meanie. So after SpongeBob and Patrick like start arguing and stuff, you know, basically fighting, not being friends, Mrs. Puff decided that the best thing to do to make them friends again is to take care of the egg. And through much adventure and help using teamwork, SpongeBob and Patrick were able to keep the egg alive and reunite their friendship with Mrs. Puff watching the entire time. They're both friends. For once, Mrs. Puff is happy, which is a very satisfying conclusion to see, and there's a baby chicken as the green screen. Coming in at number 18, and the first one on the A tier, is Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 4. This, in my opinion, is one of the better Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boys. I do think this one has a lot of like chaotic moments and just frantic decisions. In a rush to escape SpongeBob, they forgot, specifically Mermaid Man, his belt. SpongeBob, who gets a hold of this belt, realizes that it has powers and begins to shrink everything, and then eventually poor Squidward, as Squidward tried to blackmail him. SpongeBob goes around the entire town terrorizing the Commonwealth in order to keep what he's done a secret due to him not wanting to disappoint Mermaid Man or Barnacle Boy. But little does he know, after realizing he caught his heroes, he decides that it is time to make things right. And what he does, and instead of like making them bigger, he makes the town smaller, which leads Plankton to well, he's about to murder everyone. Number 17, Pranks a Lot. SpongeBob and Patrick get a devious can of invisibility spray, in which they decide the best stand of action is to just spray each other until they're completely invisible, in which they decide to become ghosts and terrorize the town in what I consider a a very hilarious fashion. One of the main reasons this episode is so high is cause SpongeBob and Patrick, they don't care. They being ruthless this episode, terrorizing everyone and anyone. Anyone could get it. And realistically, that is what happens. They terrorize surfers, the common folks, and just normal people, leading them to be on the front page. Mr. Krabs, however, is not afraid of no ghosts. He beat Luigi's Mansion blindfolded speedrunning. All it takes is a little bit of water for them to be exposed, and Mr. Krabs quickly calls up the entire town to publicly humiliate and embarrass them, which is 100% the karma that was coming to them and they deserve. This entire episode is very enjoyable. I think there's a lot of good aspects about it. That's why it's an A. Number 16, the algae's always greener. This one I had to toss and turn a lot in my head just cause there's a whole bunch of different aspects to this episode. Mainly we get a POV of what if Plankton lived in Mr. Krabs' life. Basically, they Freaky Friday. They switch bodies, and after doing so, Plankton soon realizes that Mr. Krabs' life, while it is vastly different, he has his own issues and his own different set of problems. Not to mention, he forgot Mr. Krabs had a whole ass daughter. Just the teardrops are the size of Plankton. We also get this funny scene where we get to see the Nasty Patty 2.0. Squidward. I mean, you put Squidward behind the grill. What did you expect? This is probably one of the first episodes we get where it is fully dedicated to Plankton, and I think it's great. I think they used their time wisely. It was very funny, and the way they portrayed Mr. Krabs as the villain, making Plankton realize just how kind of annoying he is. Basically, the shoe is on the other foot, and he's taking them bitches off. He's going back to his Yeezys and his holographic meatloaf, and low-key, that shit kind of look good. Why does holograph look good? Coming in at number 15 is The Bully. I love this episode. It's one of the more like unusual ones in terms in plot and stuff, but I love it all around because the bully just wants to do nothing but beat SpongeBob's ass. Even going as far as like hiding in a toilet. And eventually he even tells Mrs. Puff, but Mrs. Puff immediately snitches, causing SpongeBob to have a full mental breakdown, just scared of everything. I know it's not really good to see SpongeBob scared, but bro, he is so hilarious in this episode. All of this just to find out in the end that SpongeBob can't even feel it when he's punched, which isn't true in later episodes, but for this one he has plot armor and I love it. All of this just to be immune and have a stronger intolerance than Flats. Essentially, he's the first person ever to technically beat Flats in a fight. The ending is great. SpongeBob becomes the hero of the class and he saves the day. On accident, but regardless he did. Clams. This obviously being a goated episode, Mr. Krabs gets his millionth dollar and he decides to take out the boys on a fishing trip. And honestly, if it was like a day or maybe half a day, it would be fire. I'd go fishing with Mr. Krabs and Squidward. But eventually, with SpongeBob's careless and reckless behavior, he snatches Mr. Krabs' dollar and sends it overboard. As per the episode says, a big ass clam ends up eating the said dollar and Mr. Krabs is now on his revenge plot. He forces SpongeBob and Squidward to stay on the boat until he can retrieve his millionth dollar, lasting days and days. Obviously, they get sick and tired of this. They're very hungry, just like Gary. This is one of my favorite memes right here. And eventually, after they tried to escape, Mr. Krabs dumps out all of their food, and then even when that was not enough, he then just threatens to kill him and use them as bait. However, Mr. Krabs decides he just wants to take on the clam one-on-one, in which, in a way, he got the dollar back, but at what cost? Number 13, and the last one on the A tier is Club SpongeBob. This one had to be the top of A tier, because it does have like a lot of memes attached to it, and I definitely understand if this is like a lot of people's favorite episode. Has the magic conch, has the editing timing mistake with Squidward's hand. However, I agree this episode's fire. I'll always watch it. I just don't think it has a certain feel to be A+ or S tier. There needs to be a certain feel, and this one almost gets it, but just barely not. Congrats to SpongeBob and Patrick for the Magicon. Coming in at number 12 and the first one at the A+ tier is One Krabs Trash. This episode is so good. Mr. Krabs, obviously Penny Pincher, has a bogus Temu whack-ass garage sale. He finds suckers in order to... Pause. Let me restart it. Kyle, edit that out. Kush, get it out of here. SpongeBob and Patrick show up, and obviously we know they're fools. And what do schemers and scammers like Mr. Krabs love? They love fools. Patrick buys a plunger for $3. I know those $3 is money you borrowed, Patrick. Oh my god, that's gross, bro. Anyway, SpongeBob finds a gem of an item. A corny pro bass fishing #1 hat made from Dipper. Nah, but for real though, because of SpongeBob, this hat is kind of fresh right here. Not only do we get memes, but we get a whole bunch of like edgier scenes than we normally do, which I kind of love in SpongeBob. But then Mr. Krabs finds out the hat is worth a lot of money, so he tries a number of tactics to try and get it back from SpongeBob, eventually settling on scaring him with a he tries scaring him with a ghost, and then he instructs SpongeBob to put the hat back where it belongs, which is a random grave. Shout out this scene right here. It's one of my favorites. I feel ya, Squidward. I feel ya. Mr. Krabs, you know, he is so cheap and money grubby. He decides it's enough money to defile a whole ass grave. Obviously, the grave people didn't like that. He gets attacked by the cemetery, only to find out after all that trouble the hat is useless. It was overmade, and SpongeBob got that drip drip. Coming in at number 11 is Idiot Box. I think we all know why this is A+. This episode has everything going for it. Stupidity, mindlessness, 1,000 real highlights low-key, and imagination. SpongeBob and Patrick basically play in a box where they RPG Dungeons and Dragons, Grottos and Gremlins, whatever you want to say. Comment down if you know what Grottos and Gremlins is from. Let me know. Squidward doesn't understand how they're having so much fun in a box. Also, I just want to shout out the whole scene where Squidward tries his best to watch TV, but it just ends up being nothing but box-related stuff. Even boxing, which I think is one of the best jokes in SpongeBob. Squidward has decided to steal the box essentially in the middle of the night, and he is gaslit to believe his imagination is going, even though it's just him being thrown the fuck away, hauled away into the night at the garbage dump. The top 10 SpongeBob Season 3 episodes, starting off with the Great Snail Race. I honestly thought this one was gonna be a lot higher, but then I watched all the Season 3 episodes and I realized just how much fire there was in this season. It was almost like a struggle trying to decide what's better. Almost feel not fair. Squidward gets a new snail along with Patrick, even though his is just a rock. And SpongeBob decides to become a very aggressive training coach towards Gary, trying to make him like bulk, get all the muscle, and become an Olympian overnight, which obviously Gary can't do. He wants to do nothing but run away and watch TV. Look at Patrick's snail. You see SpongeBob with those blue striped Adidas? Why are they kind of fresh though? Gary comes in second or third place, but it doesn't matter. He finds true love in Squidward's snail. And Patrick's snail ends up being the entire winner, and this episode is just great. A whole bunch of good moments. Squidward, you know, losing to a rock is hilarious. Only downside was Gary getting overworked, which was sad. But this episode definitely has a place in the top 10 spot. Congratulations, Tortellini. Number 9 is Wet Painter's Paws. SpongeBob and Patrick are instructed to paint the entirety of Mr. Krabs' house without getting a single drop of paint on anything, or else he'll hang they booties on the wall like BDR. And Mr. Krabs has a lot of shit, bro. His garage sale could have popped off, but he was selling the wrong stuff. You already know SpongeBob and Patrick fumbled. What turns into a small mistake ends up being what could have been a huge disaster. However, the paint is apparently home-seeking, and it does a perfect job, aside from one bit. The tiniest little ant saliva drop on that dollar. SpongeBob and Patrick try everything they can to remove the smudge, but eventually they decide to just try and hide it. It doesn't work out. Mr. Krabs finds out, and it turns out he was just pulling their leg all along. The paint is very easily washable. They might as well not even paint the damn house, and Mr. Krabs end up just dying of laughter. So much that causes all of the beautiful paint to now be demolished. Coming in at number 8 and the last one on the A+ tier is Crab Board. SpongeBob stays up late at night to watch a scary movie. Basically, robots murk everyone, and he goes into work the next day thinking that Mr. Krabs is a robot. So paranoia starts kicking in, and SpongeBob is fully convinced that he is a robot, so he takes measures into his own hand. Him and Squidward decide that their approach is torture. So Mr. Krabs, even though he's innocent, he gets jumped, tied up, and then accused. This almost feels like being accused you're a witch. And one of the reasons I like this episode so much is because it takes a lot of intelligence blindness to not see Mr. Krabs isn't a robot. However, they fully convinced he is, and so they break his shit. They beat and mug him. All the while Mr. Krabs was just in here chilling. And for some reason, like, Mr. Krabs never really gets done dirty. It's always him kind of being the antagonist or the instigator. And it's all fun and games until they realize Mr. Krabs is not a robot. We are at the top 7 at the S tier. You can't get higher than this. It is Can You Spare a Dime? Everyone should be able to understand exactly why this is S tier. Mr. Krabs realizes that there is a dime of his that has gone missing, and he immediately targets it on Squidward as the culprit. And obviously Squidward ain't gonna stand for any of that, because why would he crash out over a dime? Squidward is way classier than stealing dimes. He be out here stealing hundreds, stealing bands. He ain't no after no dimes. And by crash out, I mean he really crashed out. This episode is almost a constant laugh the entire time. It's really goofy because Squidward forces SpongeBob to be his maid, which is some of the most hilarious parts in SpongeBob history. Get a job with the soup is S tier by itself. All of that just for it to turn out that Mr. Krabs had the dime the entire time. Number 6 is the camping episode. I expected this one to be higher, but this season is just full of fire. Patrick and SpongeBob decide to go out camping in their front yard, backyard, whatever. Squidward, first he's hating, and then he becomes jealous and decides he wants to camp out there with him. Half jealousy, half wanting to prove them wrong and that it's easy and stuff. We get the campfire song from this episode. We get Sea Bear. Usually I want to hype Squidward up and see him succeed, but something about the Sea Bear beating his ass. I don't know, man. That shit is hilarious to me. Squidward, you better get off the screen, boy. Who decided to animate SpongeBob teeth like that? Oh, hillbilly crack pipe smoking ass. In the top 5 is Midlife Crustacean. However, it's banned, so I can't cover it video wise. This episode is so goated though. Hilarious in every ways, to the point they had to remove the motherfucker from the show. Mr. Krabs trying to be hip again is hilarious. Him being like confused by back then's culture was hilarious. The plot twist with Mrs. Krab was weird, hilarious, and it's like, bro, this episode was fire. Definitely deserves top 5. Coming in at number 4 is No Weenies Allowed. Sandy knows the best trap house on the block, and SpongeBob thinks that just cause he knows someone, he can get in the house. But he quickly finds out that is not how this works. After being kicked out, he has no choice but to go to the Weenie Hut Jr., where he gets advices from weenies. He tries multiple ways to sneak in, and it doesn't work until eventually SpongeBob convinces Patrick to go on with his little scheme, and we get the hilarious scene where like Patrick is fighting himself but pretending SpongeBob is SpongeBob wins the quote-unquote fight. He is finally allowed in the trap house and threw up the wrong sign. The top 3 episodes of season 3, Chocolate with Nuts, definitely deserves its spot. Most of us can recall this entire episode without even having to watch it. SpongeBob and Patrick fall for a pyramid scheme, a little scam. They buy chocolates, and then this dude right here, Schemer McBeanos, finagles them for all they're worth, and now they're out here losing dignity over some chocolate, all the while getting chased by a guy with very bad social skills. This part right here is amazing. You guys can hear this voice right now, and the audio's not even on. I quote this to this day. This is a quote I use a lot in life. You know, every day I break my arms, and then every night I break my legs. For something that's hilarious to me. And eventually, the maniac who's been chasing them all this time was just dummy rich, dummy friendly, and he just wanted to simply buy all of their chocolate. Number 2, just shy of first place, is Just One Bite. I knew you guys were expecting this to be in the top 3. I just want to say, fat me as a child completely loved this scene watching Harold eat. I have no idea why. It turns out that Squidward has never had a Krabby Patty, and SpongeBob is on a mission to make him eat one. And eventually, he is able to break Squidward's spirit, and he tries this hilarious meme of a bite. He breaks character for one moment before deciding that apparently it tasted like dog doo-doo. But as soon as SpongeBob walks out the frame, Squidward can't help but he has an addiction now. That nasty ass salad right there with sand. Squidward can't help but to get his fix any way he can. He spirals so bad that he goes straight to the source. SpongeBob catches him, but the urge to eat meat for Squidward is just way too strong. And just like that, he spirals, he crashes out, eating everything in sight until it's this hilarious meme. It went straight to his thighs, thick as hell, and then his ass blew up. And the number 1 episode of this season is Nasty Patty, and honestly, this might be my favorite episode overall ever. SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs crash out crazy over some burgers and fries. Basically, a health/food inspector is here to try out all of their delicious foods, and honestly, I don't even remember half of this BS being on the menu. Some of this looks delicious. He ends up loving the food, of course, because SpongeBob made it, right? However, due to a poorly timed news ad placement, they think he is a fake, and so they create this diabolical patty. How the hell a burger got pimples on it? They give him the burger, and while they look away, they assume he eats it, but he actually chokes on a fly. And for some reason, hearing him die and choke and literally get murked in front of them because of something they think they did, by the way. That's what's so special about this episode. The creators didn't care. They were wanting them to crash out. They murked a fish. He went belly up. Look at him. But as soon as they think this guy is dead, you know, SpongeBob freaks out, but Mr. Krabs, almost like he's done this before, says, "Hey boy, chill. We gotta get him in the trunk. I know a place we can bury him at." He said, "Don't worry, bro." Why did they bury him like that? That's a goofy ass way to bury someone. They have to lie and hide what they did from the police. Bro, he is dragging the body right in front of the cop car. That's crazy, SpongeBob. It turns out he's actually alive, but, you know, the cops also try and murk him. Not even just one. Both of them gave him that word. SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs didn't even get manslaughter charges. because they got away with everything, and honestly, good on them. Thank you guys so much for watching season 3 of me ranking every episode. It took so long. I have 5 different parts to this video, all like an hour long, including this one that I have to record, and now I gotta edit. Should be done in about a month's time. If you are seeing this, it'll probably be a month from when I'm recording right now. You know, right now, recently, the Spongebob Wendy's meal just came out. I want to say, Flow, that shit is ass and trash. Y'all disappointed as hell. I'm kind of mad at Wendy's low-key, and this is coming from a dude who loves Wendy's. I thought they have delicious food, but the way they treating this, it's basically just a meal. If you don't get your little bitch ass on Wendy, I know you can do better. McDonald's would have tried something else. You should have put some jelly on that burger, call it a jellyfish, you know, some Dr. Kelp. Instead, you got some bitch ass square ass patties. Not even SpongeBob is square, and his ass don't even use square patties. Fucking lame ass Wendy's bitch ass letting me down and shit.